Great, and we're live.
Thanks.
We're live to the 0
Thanks,
viewers.
David. We can go now.
It's great. You're done. That's it. That's all. That's all it requires. No. Okay. So recently, over the last month and a half, I've been doing lots and lots of live coding on the internet. I've mentioned it to a couple of people. But one of the things that isn't immediately obvious if you watch the live recorded sessions is about 50% of them are done remotely. So we've managed to work out what the magic incantation of tooling is to pair remotely. Obviously, in this organization, we've got a lot of outsourced teams and what was it called? Co-sourced, insourced, outsourced, offshored. So there are people in different countries that we need to work with, and really a lot of the communication barriers around software happen when people aren't looking at the same things on the same page. So what I'm going to do is, first, as a bit of a bonus, you've all kind of seen the Hangouts thing, but when we do the live streams, we balance this incantation of a tool called TeamViewer and Google Hangouts on Air. So I'm not going to click all of these buttons because it'll probably implode this live stream. Generally, if you want to pre-record a remote pair session, if you Google Hangouts on Air, that's not the right, it's this one, Google plus.google.com/Hangouts/on Air, you can create a Hangout on Air which will record and stream everything that you see and do. It's pretty easy. You hit that button, you've all seen my screen sharing before. So what I'm going to do here, I already have TeamViewer installed on this. I'm going to download the free for private use. Remember, private use, so if we're going to be using it commercially, we probably have to license it. That said, do we already have TeamViewer licenses? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through the setup process here. And TeamViewer is actually super, super awesome. I've always been very, very skeptical of fake remote desktop tools, but this one is very good because of this. So I think, yeah, standard, whatever.
Yes, you can make it run only without install. It's really...
There's all sorts of install options, but you can just click next and it works. It's the short version. So, unfortunately, the guys on the stream aren't going to be able to see me now. Switching to my other laptop. You guys. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open TeamViewer here on my Surface. So in the world's most cross-platform, we're going to do some remote pairing between a Windows VM running on a Mac and a Microsoft Surface. So you get this remote control up, and the great thing about TeamViewer, you don't have to create accounts or anything. You can either remote control a machine where TeamViewer is running as a service, but you're not going to do that. What you want to do is you want to host a meeting. So this is an incredibly confusing UI. But basically, you want to come over here and you want to hit presentation. And this happens. So at this point, if you're also using Google Hangouts, you're going to run into a whole heap of problems. So when we remote pair and live stream on Hangouts, obviously both TeamViewer and Hangouts is listening on the microphone and the speakers, so you get the biggest amount of feedback in the entire world. If you're not doing Google Hangouts, what you would do is you would leave everything as is there. If you're also streaming your session, you're going to want to very, very rapidly mute your TeamViewer's shared speakers and microphone, so it will effectively mute everyone and you'll communicate over Hangouts. Otherwise, just leave them good. Leave them going because it has built-in VoIP and webcam chat. So microphone is muted. Let's mute the speakers there as well, so I've got nothing going on. We're not going to get any feedback loop. And what you get is this meeting ID over here. And all you do on here is you hit meeting on that UI, and I'm going to type in meeting ID over here. So M92 084 266. And something's happening. And there we go. So what I have here now is that laptop on this screen. So this is a good example of a couple of the kinks that you end up running into. So the resolutions between these two devices are mismatched. And when we switch to Visual Studio, I'll show you a couple of hints that make it a bit more palatable. So at the moment, I can't do anything on here. I can just see. So my screen here will move around. reasonably lag-free when I move the mouse here. What you then have to do over here is allow or deny remote control, and then it warns you. Apparently I have an old version of TeamViewer. See, I said this might be done inside 10 minutes, but it blatantly isn't going to. So what I'm going to do now is very, very quickly leave this meeting, disconnect on my Surface, and I'm going to upgrade TeamViewer. I've never seen that happen before, but it's obviously a thing that happens. So if I update TeamViewer over here, there's the internet's fast.
Yes, because you'll have your own on your Surface, but the camera,
yeah. Please close TeamViewer. TeamViewer. Thought it was closed. Good try. Yep. Let's kill that. So TeamViewer 932-bit end task. TeamViewer remote control end task. Kill everything. And I'm going to install it over here again. Set up. Please just work. Very nice. Button. So this is now going through my setup again. Accept. Let's just keep on moving the mouse over here so it doesn't shut down due to inactivity. I did consider doing all this before the session, but I thought it'd be reasonable to be realistic about the pain you're probably going to go through in the real world. So again, 92.084.266. Connecting, great. So I'm connected again over here, and hopefully
So we have adapted with me.
the host can now do that, right? So this is me moving the mouse over here. And instead, I'm going to walk to the other. I'm not going to walk to the other end, otherwise people aren't going to be able to hear me narrating. I'm going to walk over here and ruin my demo slightly, and I can now move this mouse. So you get a little bit of lag, but it isn't particularly significant. And if I come over here, I can close that tab, so I can use keyboard shortcuts. Chrome is particularly. And now here's a thing that I'm working on in Visual Studio. So you'll notice that on my Surface over here, you can't actually see the TeamViewer control that you can see on the machine connected to the monitor. So the other guy doesn't know when you're muting him or minimizing him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this off to the side here.
Can you increase the font size?
And that's exactly what I was going to tell you. So because of the mismatch of resolutions, it's normally really worth dropping into Visual Studio or your IDE and just going to font. So if you've not used the quick launch bar, it is awesome. Environment, font and colors, and knocking this at least up to like 24 pixels. The reason I say 24, and 24 is pretty big, is because on my little surface down here, the text now actually looks realistic. So what you tend to end up with if you've got mismatch resolution is that one of the pair will have a screen that's bigger than the other, and so someone will get big writing. The nice thing is that everything kind of works. So keyboard shortcuts work, the resharper, control keys, all that kind of stuff. Build, and generally it's really pretty responsive. One last thing, which is kind of awesome, switch back to the one that I'd have to kneel to use, is if you open up TeamViewer itself, there's a whole load of cool stuff like whiteboarding. So if you're discussing something, you can draw pictures, which is really useful. And you can highlight things, and similarly, I think I should be able to lean across this other machine. I can draw as well. You can make a decision, and you can either save the whiteboard diagram, you can clear it, and you can disable it again. So that's really useful if you just want to look at code or do, like, for instance, interactive code reviews remotely. You know, they can open up a screen and you can highlight things and discuss them. So that's pretty useful. As I said, this thing also has video chat, which we've got disabled because Google Hangouts is currently streaming, voice over IP, and yeah, it's really, really simple, really accessible. Everything just works. Obviously, you can also then start a Hangout and record your screen viewer. So if you're going to stream this through Hangouts, it's worth remembering to mute all of TeamViewer's stuff first. So when we do this in the wild on the internet, the way we normally go about it is we start up a TeamViewer session, we connect all the TeamViewer stuff together on voice chat. So we're talking via TeamViewer, then mute ourselves, then start a Hangout on air and invite the other pair to the Hangout on air. So unfortunately, I can't record and go through the Hangout on air process while I'm doing this. But what you end up doing is you launch the Hangout on air and it pops up an invite. The people that you invite at that first dialogue will also get piped in into voice chat. So it's not quite the same as an open Hangout. Hangouts on air have certain limitations on the number of people that can participate. But the nice thing is anyone that joins at the start of it can talk and communicate with you. And both of the microphone streams will be captured from your machine and their machine and mixed together. The other thing to bear in mind about doing live streams on Hangouts is you can enable Q&A. So let me hide this TeamViewer thing here. Everybody on, all the 5 people there can have a trippy experience. So actually, I wonder if any of them have noticed that if I click up here, so you get a chat, but if you click here, you get Q&A. That's really trippy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect from the TeamViewer session now, because obviously Q&A and TeamViewer involves your voice. And if I hop onto the Hangouts URL, so if I go to Google Hangouts on air on my Surface, hopefully I'll be able to see this Hangout running. Should be over here. And let me click this. And I want to view the Hangout on air, view event. Awesome. So I've got the event page up here. So I should, if I press play on this, be able to issue questions. So yes, I'm muted. Firstly, I can applaud, which is nice. Show item, showcase. So here's a funny thing. Where are the Q&As? Here. So on my Surface, up on the top right, when I'm watching the stream, there's a little 3x3 square matrix, you know, the app drawer icon. If you click it, there's a little Q&A thing, which loads a side panel up. So if I ask a question, ask a new question. Hello, how do I stream? And I hit submit. That question should appear here. Hello, how do I, and it does auto update, you don't have to hit it. So I can select this, and Google makes a note that when I've selected that question, I'm currently answering it. And when I've finished answering it, I can hit done. And all the analytics that run after the event tells you when the questions were answered and gives you time offsets, which is quite useful if you're doing a remote Q&A. And that's basically it. That's how I run all live code things. It's really good for pairing generally. And it's actually pretty easy once you work out the magical balance of muting everything. Cool.
Can you clarify a little bit of the actual thing? So many people are involved, how do you run it?
Yeah, I mean, when I do remote pairing, generally, imagine completely non-broadcasted. Let me minimize this really trippy screen. When I do remote pairing, generally it's a one-on-one session, and if it's a code review, we'll do the person that wrote the code will run through the core components and we'll change things as we go. So what I don't like doing is taking a whole massive list of notes and then going and asynchronously making a bunch of changes and kicking it back over the fence. You know, code review should be an interactive thing. You should sit there together. You should work through the code base. You should make the changes and discuss the things as you go. That's great if you're doing remote pairing for programming. It's run very, very similarly to the code dojo, so it should be a ping pong. Someone writes a test, someone fixes it, The general gist of pair programming is you have a navigator and a driver. So someone who is saying, oh, we should go this way, the other person that's doing it. The idea is that the person that's, air quotes, dumbly typing has a little bit of spare mental capacity to think about things as they're navigating through. And then you should generally aim to switch roles every 5 or 10 minutes just to keep everyone fresh and keep everyone alert. You know, the pure benefit of pairing is everybody keeps attentive the entire time. So whenever you get those natural lulls where you just feel like you're stuck or can't be bothered, the other person picks up the slack and gives you that breathing space. Nice and easy. So if anyone wants to do any remote pairing, give me a shout. I know there's a couple of people watching on the Hangouts. Yeah, nice and easy.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, great. Let's call it there. Let me take us off air.
And about the results, just about your experience, about making how you when you do this on the web, you have to make this best of people to work together. What is your experience about skills? People has to be at the same level. You get.
So pairing is good for loads and loads of different reasons with loads of different audiences. It's great for knowledge transfer, so skills. If you know something, not necessarily I'm a better programmer than you. It's if you know something about a code base that I don't know, it doesn't matter how technically competent you are at programming, you get a lot from doing those things. If you have devs that you want to teach, it's a really great way to stimulate those conversations. Hey, did you know you could do it this way? Let's take this approach. Have you seen this API before? So you can do it in a mentor-mentee way. Obviously, everyone will be mildly critical of that, and they'll say, oh, but it just means that the smarter guy is running slower. Of course he is, because teaching people and training people takes time, and that's okay. That's totally natural. You know, it's a cost you're going to pay anyway. So it's good for that. It's good for knowledge transfer, and it's just good for regular work. Just regular work. If you've got something that's maybe an annoying problem or the kind of problem that makes people glaze over or something that's quite difficult, it's really good to keep people focused because the conversation that comes out of it is really good. I mean, when we do it on the web, the idea behind the live sessions is very, very simple. It's about communicating the process.
And when you do this on the web, generally people know the pair before starting the cutout. They make the couple.
They generally know before.
Okay.
So when I've done it on the web, I've paired with 3 different people, live streamed. So the bit that we cheat at is that we've all worked together before, so we know how each other work. The bit that we don't cheat at is we don't prepare the problems. We come in cold. So you get to, the whole idea is you see the full fat natural experience of us going, oh my God, we don't know how to solve this. How are we going to do this? How are we going to work this out? So the idea of the live sessions are about understanding the process.
And it was something like a dojo, the problem to solve.
Yeah, similar. Sometimes it's dojo stuff. Sometimes it's real work. Doesn't matter. You know, honestly, I like pairing for about 50% of every day. Obviously, depending on the roles I'm working at in the organizations, it's not always applicable. But I tend to find half on, half off works really well because a lot of people need that natural decompression time to think. But if you're up against a tight deadline or you've got some really hard work to do, there's honestly no better way through it than pairing because it'll just keep you razor tight on focus. And the truth is, if you pair your way through, code reviews become completely irrelevant. Just don't do them. There's no point in code reviewing something that's been continually reviewed.
And that's company like a biggest company like Google, Facebook, are they using pairing programmers to? Or they...
I certainly expect so. I mean, I don't know. I've not surveyed them all, but I've worked in tons and tons and tons of organizations that do. It's one of those things that people see as kind of a leading edge thing. So pairing is, I suppose, interpersonally intensive. It requires you to get on with the people that you work with and requires you to be comfortable with asking tough questions and being honest and transparent about the quality of the code you're writing. But equally, the flip side, it allows you to choose and say, this is good enough. So what it protects you against people over-engineering and disappearing down black holes and building code you don't use. Because the question should always be, are we done now? Like, did we succeed? Did we achieve what we were trying to do? Yes? Well, let's stop. Rather than let's spend 2 days thinking about this again, just in case. It's all about, you know, clarity and communication and finishing. Yeah, that makes sense?
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. Now I'll hang up. Lost my Hangout.